Hi, this is Tim Yoder with Fit Small Business. Today I will be evaluating Express Accounts by NCH Software for Chapter 3 of the Fit Small Business case study, which deals with accounts receivable. So I've opened my trial version of Express Accounts, the desktop version, and as always I'm greeted with a screen here that says this free version is licensed only for small business use. So I originally downloaded it as a trial subscription. However, I can continue to use the free version as long as I certify that I have 5 or fewer employees, and so I'm going to do that, and then it remains free. Now, as we go through the case study, we'll find there are certain features that are only available with an upgrade, but the free software is what we're reviewing with this case study. Okay, so let's get started with accounts receivable. So the first thing we want to do is we want to set up a 6% sales tax to the state of New York. Now, if I recall, that's going to be under our options here. Sales tax. Yep, it looks like we can add a sales tax here, and we're just going to call it New York sales tax. Okay, and it's going to be just a simple 6% rate. Okay, we want this when we collect it, we want it to go to our sales tax collected, and when we pay it, we want it to come out of the sales tax collected. Okay, perfect. So let's hit OK, and good. Let's see what these other options are. Item prices are tax inclusive, presumed to already have. No, we don't want that. Tax is going to be stated separately. Show sales tax rate as a column on the invoice. Sure. And show sales tax amount as a column on the invoice. Sure. Okay. And we need to track sales tax paid. Use where an input credit can be claimed. Okay. Nope, that's not. Well, at least that's not for the US. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now we have our sales tax set up. Now we want to look at the customization of our invoices and the options that we have. So I believe, again, that's under options. And invoice. Okay, so here we have some customization as far as what fields show up on it. So we have an item column. We don't want the salesperson's name, so I'm going to take that off. Invoice options, we have a due date, paid. Okay, that looks good. Here we can add some additional information. At the bottom, we can put a footnote to thank people at the bottom. Here we have all sorts of customization options. Here we can add custom fields to our invoices, and here we can actually preview the invoice. Okay, in order to preview, the settings must be saved first. Let's go cancel. How do we save our settings? What if we just change to a different? Okay, page layout. This looks like this still deals with our, I believe this is still dealing with our invoices, yes, because we can enable it to correctly line up for window envelopes. Page styles. Okay, here's where we can do some nice customization. So here we have page styles for our invoices, all these different templates. Let's maybe go with the ocean ombre. Here, some more customization options. We have some text, accents, positioning, colors. Here, I believe we can select the near infinite color because yes, we can define our custom colors, and we can here then choose. Let's see. Yeah, so here we could choose exactly where we want in the spectrum for our colors. Now I don't see a place where you can enter that. There's like a code. If you Google it, there's a code you can enter to get exactly the color you want, and I don't see here where you can just enter that code. I'm not that familiar with it. Maybe it's a combination of these other color codes, but anyway, you can get a very custom color. Good. Now the only thing I'm not seeing here, but we did see something about a logo. I want to make sure that we can put the logo on the invoice. so this is our current, that's I think just the template. What if we go over here to invoice, preview invoice? Maybe that's the same thing. Oh, here we go. Add logo. Good. And here we can, looks like, upload pictures to come up with a logo. Okay. Very cool. So that is really, really, really good. That's very customizable. That's as much customization as I've seen in any software at any price range, let alone for free software. So absolute strong point for Express Accounts is their invoice customization. So let's go to our scorecard here. We were able to create a sales tax item. We chose an invoice template. We uploaded the logo. We changed the colors. We can create personalized messages on it. Very, very simple. Okay, now, next thing we want to do is issue an invoice to Family Bowling for the 40 hours of Hank's labor and the $200 permit fee. So if those are from Chapter 2. Now with Express Accounts, we're not able to pay bills, designate them as billable, and then add them to invoices later. In Chapter 2, we already paid them. However, we're just going to have to kind of recreate them here because we weren't able to mark them as billable and add them to an invoice. So we're just going to have to kind of start the invoice from scratch. But let's go to our Sales tab here. Gives us our kind of workload for our sales. We are going to jump over the quote for right now, and we're just going to create an invoice. We're going to create an invoice to Family Bowling. Have we set them up yet? No, we don't have any customer set up yet, so let's just add Family Bowling, and I think it'll just add it as a customer without us even doing anything. Again, I kind of wish it would pop up and say, do you want to add this customer? Because otherwise, if we have a typo in the customer name, it's just going to create a new customer instead of telling us, oh, we don't have a customer with that name. Okay, we are going to, looks like here's our payment terms. It's going to be net 30, invoice number. Okay, this is a sales invoice, and so we're going to have to designate a deposit account. It's a little bit weird because we haven't actually received payment on it yet. But we'll go ahead and do checking account. Okay, we're going to do 40 hours of Hank's labor, so 40 hours of contract labor. Okay, good, charging $80 an hour. We do not want sales tax on the labor. Interesting. How do we get rid of, we don't want sales tax on that. Okay. Okay, to solve our sales tax problem here, I've canceled out of the invoice. I think we need to go to the item and say that it's not subject to sales tax. So usually you can turn sales tax on and off in the invoice, but here you're going to need to make sure your items are set up right. So we can go to contract labor, edit, and we can go down here to our tax, and let's put none. So we're going to have to be very careful setting up our items, make sure we set them up properly. Let's do plumbing widgets, edit plumbing widgets, and make sure that the plumbing widgets are subject to the New York sales tax. Okay, so we can close this. Now let's go into making our invoice. So our customer, oh, it didn't save the customer, so this was Family Bowling. Okay. Let's deposit it to checking account. Quantity 40 hours of contract labor. Okay, and now it didn't charge tax. Perfect. Now the next. So can we only do invoices for items? Can we not? Yeah, this is going to be a little bit of a hassle, isn't it? We can't do an invoice. Okay, so we can't pass through. It's really not easy to pass through expenses. Okay, can we save this as a draft? Let's save it as a draft. So, right, my problem is here I need to add the permit fee. Well, the permit fee, we can't just describe it as permit fee and throw it in there. We're going to have to, now we could maybe create kind of a bit of a generic item, so let's do that. So let's save this as a draft. And let's go over here. We have to go back to our items. So let's add a new item. And let's call this item billable expense is. Okay, billable expenses, and let's not give it a unit price. It's not going to be subject to sales tax. Okay, the income account will be our general sales, expense account, general products purchased. Okay, and let's hit OK. Now we have to enter a description. Expenses billable to customer. Enter a proper currency value. Well, we don't. I'm hoping we can change the unit cost and stuff when we go to invoice it. Okay, now let's go back to our invoices. So then we want a list of invoices so we can see our draft. Well, where do we get to our draft? Display invoices all. There we go. There's our draft. Okay, now I'm going to add just one of the billable expenses. Okay, and now can I, yeah, good. So I can add, this is going to be $200 for a permit that we had to purchase. Okay, now can I change this to permit fee? There we go. Excellent. Okay, so that works, and that's really not a bad system at all. So we're going to record we have to create an item of billable expenses. We can use that kind of generic item for whatever billable expense we're passing through to the customer. We can describe it in the description field. If there is a particular billable expense that you use a lot, like maybe permit fees, you could set it up as its own item rather than using the generic one. But then we can modify whatever we need here. Okay, that looks very good. So we can add some comments down here, whatever we want to do. And so let's hit record. So I want to see if I can both print and email the invoice. So let's go record. So here is record and email. Here is record and print. I'm going to do a record and save as a PDF because I want to see exactly what it looks like here. Is it coming up anywhere? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not seeing it anywhere. It does seem that you can print it and email it though, and so I think everything's fine. I think it's just an issue with my computer. Okay, good. So excellent. Let's see what our next step is here. So let's record an invoice for the sale of plumbing widgets to Big Time Diner for $25 each. Be sure to collect the 6% sales tax on the entire sale. Okay, so let's do another invoice. Shouldn't take long. We have all our items set up. So this time we're selling it plumbing widgets to Big Time Diner. This will automatically set them up as a customer. It's going to be a new invoice. We're going to use the deposit account of checking account, and our quantity will be 20 plumbing widgets. Okay, and we're going to charge New York sales tax on it of $30. Very good. This time let's do a record and email. Okay, enter the email address that you want it to be sent, attach the invoice as a PDF, and we can do comments. Very good. I'm going to hit cancel, and we will just do record. Good. Okay, so here is our invoice. Obviously, we would do a little bit of work getting all of our company information in, getting all the customer information in, and we can customize it like we talked about. Very nice, invoices. Okay, so good. It looks like these invoices are showing as being outstanding, so they're not paid. So let's look now at our financial statements and let's see how these invoices are reflected. I would expect them to be reflected in accounts receivable and in revenue, since these are accrual basis reports. So let's go to our reports. Let's look at our balance sheet first. And here we have accounts receivable of $39.30. Excellent. That is exactly what I would expect. We also have sales tax collected. That's the $30 of New York sales tax we just collected on that last invoice, showing that we now owe that amount to New York. That is absolutely perfect. Love it. Okay, and then let's look quickly at our income statement and make sure that everything is showing up as we expected. And good. So we have our sales of $3,900. Now, as we talked about in the prior chapter, Express Accounts does not account for your inventory. So you might be able to set up an item and you can call it inventory and you can have an account on your balance sheet inventory, but it doesn't do the inventory accounting for you. And what I mean by that is we just sold inventory. We even showed it as being a sale of an item and it did nothing to record a cost of goods sold. This general products purchased under cost of sales, this is the amount we actually purchased in inventory. That should be the amount, that should be the cost of the inventory we've actually sold, right? And so another way to think about this, we're still sitting on we're holding a whole bunch of inventory, but none of that inventory, if we click over to our balance sheet, none of that inventory is showing up on our balance sheet. Okay, we have no asset here called inventory. So the primary purpose of inventory accounting is to separate your purchases during the year into the cost of the goods that were sold, that goes on your income statement, and the cost of the inventory that remains on your balance sheet. This program does not do that. Okay, and which is not surprising for a free program. Even the lesser expensive paid programs don't give good inventory accounting. If you want inventory accounting, you're going to have to go with a higher end product like QuickBooks Online, Xero, or Zoho Books. If you have much inventory at all, I highly recommend it. It is a lot of work doing all those cost calculations yourself and separating them into your cost of goods sold on your income statement and your inventory on your balance sheet. Okay, so this really does not do that, which is fine. This probably isn't your program if you have a lot of inventory. If you're a service-based business, this might work really well. Okay, so let's go to our scorecard here. So we could create a new customer very easily. Add unbilled labor and expenses to the invoice. Now we added them, but they were not saved by the program for us to add them. So we were just able to add them kind of starting from scratch. You can print the invoice. You can email the invoice. You can add inventory to the invoice. You can charge sales tax on the inventory. However, the program does not automatically calculate cost of goods sold. Okay, now let's move on in our case study. We wanted to see if we can create a recurring invoice monthly to Trampoline City for $100 a month for a service contract. So the first thing is, let's go to our sales center here. Now let's create a new item, and we're going to call this item a service contract, and we're going to charge customers. We'll call this monthly service contract, and we're going to charge customers $100 a month for this service contract. Okay, and it is not subject to sales tax. We're going to have the money go into general sales, and we have no expenses related to it, but we'll just keep that as general products purchased and hit OK. So there's our service item. Now we can go to creating an invoice, and let's see if we can create a recurring invoice. I believe we can. So let's go create new invoice. I'm not seeing anything about recurring. I have to apologize. I've reviewed so many software. Sometimes I forget if I have seen something in this software for recurring invoices. Okay, let me do a little research. Okay, as is often the case, a quick Google of my problem came up with the answer. So I think we actually just create the invoice, and then I believe when we go to record it, we'll be able to record it as recurring. Okay, so we are going to uh, bill. This was Trampoline City, I believe, is the name of the customer. Okay, it's going to be a new invoice, checking account, and this is going to be for one service contract. Okay, everything else gets filled out automatically. Very nice. We can enter whatever content we have. What are our invoice options by? Oh, here we go. That takes us to our options and sets all the invoice options we looked at earlier. Okay, so let's do record, and let's do save as recurring, and let's see what options this gives us. So start date is today, the interval is monthly, and the action is just record. What are our choices here? Just record, print, send by email or fax. So I'm going to go ahead. I like to actually see recurring things before they go out to the customer. So we could do send by email and it would automatically get sent, but I like to see it and kind of make sure that it's appropriate and then send it. So I'm just going to say just record, but that's up to you. Okay. Ooh, and if our customer actually pays by credit card, we can actually automatically charge it. So let's hit save. Okay, so let's look at our invoices here. And good, we do have an outstanding invoice, the Trampoline City, and that should appear then next month automatically. Okay, good. Let's see if there was anything else with Trampoline City. I think that's all we wanted to do. So let's go to our scorecard here. We could create an item for service contract. We set up an invoice to automatically recur monthly. Excellent. So next, we want to receive a check from Family Bowling for the full amount of the invoice, record receipt of the check, but don't deposit it into the bank account yet. So the reason we don't want to immediately deposit it is when we go to reconcile our checking account, we would like the deposit entries in our books to match the deposit entries in our bank, on our bank statement, right? Well, our bank statement, if we deposit 5 checks for the day, our bank statement is only going to have the one deposit amount, the sum of 5 checks. So in the books, we would like to sum those 5 checks together and show one deposit. Now, some programs like QuickBooks have a undeposited funds account that we can use for that. I'm not sure if this software is going to have anything like that or not. So before we try to start receiving checks, let's look at our options and see if there was something about. So here we have our, let's edit our chart of accounts. It seems like there was an account specifically for this. It really needs to, so you could do this through cash on hand, but the problem is you're still going to have to add things up manually and then make transfers in and out of cash on hand. We really want a system account that's designed specifically for this purpose. So when you open that account, you can see exactly which checks are sitting essentially in your desk drawer, and you can click on them to add them to a deposit slip. So you could do a workaround where you just transfer everything through cash on hand, but that's going to be a bit of a hassle, and so we're not going to give it credit for being able to do this if that's the way you're going to have to do it. And it looks to me like that is probably the way we're going to have to do it in this software. So and that's okay. QuickBooks is actually one of the very few that have a very nice function for you to group your checks together. Okay, so let's go view our invoices here, and we want to receive the check from Family Bowling for the full amount. So let's click on Family Bowling. Can we do it from here? Nope, I think we're in the wrong place. Oh, so here we can highlight it, and up here we can hit payment. Okay, Family Bowling for the full amount of $3,400. Okay, let's say they paid us with a check. We can enter their check number, whatever that was, and we're going to deposit it to the checking account. I assume that this flowed over from when we showed the checking account on the invoice, but we could change it here if we had to. Now, another way to do this, again, to get all the checks grouped together, would be to initially put this on cash on hand and then do a transfer entry when we make the checking. But that's a little bit of a hassle compared to having a system account like QuickBooks does. So we're not going to give it credit for being able to group our checks together. Okay, and so now we're depositing $3,400. We're going to apply it to that $3,400. And what are our options here? We're going to record it. Record only. Okay, and there it shows the $3,400 paid. Very good. On 125, an unknown customer comes to the office and purchases one plumbing widget for $25. Okay, so this is something that's very nice. Not all software has this, but you don't always need to do an invoice, right? If somebody comes in and hands you cash for a product, there's no point in invoicing it. And so we can do a non-invoiced cash sale up here. And so it was one plumbing widget. Description, $25, subject to sales tax. Yep, so he gave us this $26.50, and I guess we can just put that in cash on hand. Now, if you have so pay by cash, amount due $26.50, and we look and we say, yep, he gave us $26.50, and then we can print them a receipt. So let's do save, and here's their receipt. Okay, so quicker than issuing an invoice, we just give them a receipt right there. Very good. So yeah, this is QuickBooks does this very good. Some other higher end stuff programs do this. This is not something I've seen in free software before. So this is really nice that you can give them a cash receipt. Really nice. This so far, the accounts receivable feature in Express Accounts is very good. Okay. You receive a check from Big Time Diner for $200 towards their invoice. Okay, so what we want to check here is can we receive a short payment? They're going to give us a partial payment, sometimes called a short payment. So Big Time Diner owes us $530, but they're only going to pay us $200 right now. So let's highlight it and let's hit payment. And Big Time Diner, and they are going to pay us $200. Okay, by check, whatever their check number is. Okay, let's apply it to that. Very good. Let's just do a record only. And excellent, tells us partially paid, so we are able to receive a partial payment. Fantastic. Okay, case study says they come in later that day and pay the $330, so let's receive the rest of that payment. Okay, really good. Let's do some of our scoring here. So let's see where we're at here. So receive a check on an outstanding invoice was very easy. Don't deposit the check received. So again, they don't have any sort of undeposited funds feature, so we're not going to give them credit for that. You could run everything through cash on hand, but that's not as simple. Issue a sales receipt for a sale paid immediately. Yes, accept a short payment. Yep. Combine multiple checks into a single deposit. No. Okay, so let's see where we're at in our case study. Okay, let's view our outstanding invoice. The only outstanding invoice should be to Trampoline City, and we can see that very easily. If you had hundreds and hundreds, you could actually choose to just display. Okay, I thought maybe you could just display the paid, but I guess not. Okay, so here we have all of our invoices. The only one outstanding is Trampoline City. That's great. Okay, so I think there was just a few more questions about that. View outstanding invoices. Can you do it without generating a report? Yep, we can view it right there in our screen. Okay, now we're going to work with credit memos. This is something where free software oftentimes really struggles. So, Big Time Diner returns 2 of their plumbing widgets. Okay, so Big Time Diner, they've already paid us, and now they've returned 2 of their widgets they paid $25 for. So how can we do that? Well, it's not letting us put a credit note. Okay, let's close this. Okay. Can we create a new invoice? Sometimes the credit is within the new invoice. Let's check out options. I was pretty sure I saw something in the options about credits. Okay, so credit note. Okay, so there is the credit note. So let's explore this credit note here a little bit more. So I think the credit note is only going to work if there's an outstanding balance. So you can't really do a credit note to issue them a refund. I think you can only use the credit note if they haven't paid you yet. So instead of receiving the payment from Trampoline City, let's say we give them a credit for $100, so they don't have to owe us $100. So let's go to credit note. Okay. So we haven't set up any credit notes yet. Okay. Okay, I get it. Now where are we at here with these credit notes? Okay, so this is where we can expand the credit note. The other screen is where we apply it to an invoice. So that's actually really, really cool. But the question is, there's got to be an easier way to get to this credit note. Okay, where do we get to credit notes? You would think that credit notes would be in the accounts receivable function here somewhere. Let me do a little bit of research. So you shouldn't have to go in to get to the credit notes like we just did. Maybe from viewing customers? No, we can't do it there. What about from opening customers? No. Okay, let me do just a little bit of research. Well, I've done some research and I have not found where to add credit notes in what would make sense as a normal way. So we're going to try to do it this way. So we're just going to take advantage of this one open invoice because we do have an open invoice here, so we can add credit notes. So we're not going to actually apply the credit note to this invoice. We're just going to use this as the gateway to our credit note list. So here we're going to create a new credit note list where we're going to make this credit to Big Time Diner. We don't have a particular invoice that we want. Well, actually maybe we do. Invoice. Okay, we are going to make it from this draft. They're returning one of the plumbing widgets. Okay, so it pulled this up. Very cool. Let's keep this to checking, although this should not actually result in a cash payment. We are actually, I think I chose the wrong customer. Big Time Diner is who. Okay, so let's start over. Discard that. Okay, we are going to create a new credit note, and it's going to be for Big Time Diner, and we are going to create it from that invoice that we sent them. Okay, which would be this one. Okay, and they are returning 2 of their plumbing widgets, and so we are giving them $50 back plus the $3 in sales tax that they collected. And so we're going to record this credit note. We are just going to record it. Okay, and there is our credit note to Big Time Diner. Okay, now notice the credit note. This is perfect. This is what we want. So it's the Big Time Diner, and it's just sitting there. There's $53. We didn't give them cash back. We haven't reduced what they owed us because they already paid us everything we owed them. Okay, so they just have this unapplied credit sitting there. Now, again, the only crazy part is that I can't figure out how to get to this credit note screen without going through a completely unrelated outstanding invoice. There's got to be a way to get to this screen, but I cannot find it. Okay, but this is the screen we want for right now. So there we go, unapplied credit note. Okay, so let's see. Now what's the next step? Okay, so can we view that credit balance somehow in their accounts receivable account? I don't think. Well, let's go to the customer account. Does the customers have a accounts receivable balance? Yeah, there we go. A negative $53 in their accounts receivable. If we open it up, that doesn't give us any detail. What if we do we don't need to do a statement form. We can see the negative 53 balance right there. Very cool. Okay. Now, this is where it's going to be interesting if we can do this. So refund the credit balance in their accounts receivable account by issuing them a check. So how are we going to issue them a check for that $53? Well, let's get back to that screen that showed the credit memo and see if it gives us any options there. Okay, well, again, we'll just take advantage of this open invoice item here so that we can go to our credit note screen. That's under contacts. Let me give us one more shot at trying to find that screen. So if we go to home, is there a place here where you can manage all of your contacts? No, not that I see. Okay, well, we'll just do it the way we're going to do it. So we're going to go to our open invoice, credit note. If we click that little button there, it brings us to our credit notes. If we highlight this, is there a way to actually have this paid out as a check now? We can, well, what if we open it? So this is applying the credit note. There's nothing to apply it to because it's okay. So that would be one way to handle credit notes, is apply it to a different invoice, but they don't have an invoice, so we need to actually issue them a refund. Yeah, I don't know that we're going to be able to do that. Okay, so I've done a little bit of research. I got a big breakthrough on this program here. So I found an important tab that we had not used before. This view button actually will view all sorts of transactions. And so to get to the credit note screen I couldn't find, we go to view credit notes, and here is that one credit note of $53. Okay, now we want to refund this $53. So the way to refund a payment that they have made to you, we got to go to view, and we got to go to payments, and this will view all the payments we've received from customers. So here's the check we received from Family Bowling. If we want to refund $53, then we do a refund through the payment. We don't create a credit memo. So a credit memo, you would create it if you're reducing what they owe you. Once they pay you, you don't do a credit memo, you do a check. Okay, you do a refund of the check. So we're going to select the check, and then we are going to go to payment here, and we can select refund. Okay, so the date, the customer name, the amount, we're only going to do $53 and check. Okay, now, okay, hopefully it's going to allocate that $53 properly, because remember, $3 of that is sales tax, and we'd have to know that. Yeah, I don't quite like this. It's better to do a credit memo, because the credit memo specifically allocated it correctly among the items on the invoice. I don't see how this is going to do that. Okay, so it recorded a $53 refund. Let's see how that affected things. So let's go back and let's delete that credit memo. Oops, so we got to go to the home screen, and then to view, and then to credit memo. So that refund had nothing to do with our credit memo, so let's delete this credit memo. So we got them their cash, and that's nice. Although we weren't able to print a check for it. Let's go back and look at that refund again. Let's go in here. Can we print the check? What does this actually print, I wonder? I'm going to go ahead and print it here. Okay. I'm going to go grab that off my printer. I'm going to pause here. Yeah, so what that printed is actually a receipt of the refund. So we are not able to print a check for the refund, but we are able to record the refund in our financial statement. So let's take a look real quick at our reports, and let's see how all of this has been reflected. So I expect on our income statement that we'll have a reduction in revenue by $53. Okay, so let's look at our detail for general sales. No, it did not. Okay. Where did our $53 go? Interesting. Okay, it's not on our income statement, which means is it going to be on our balance sheet? Okay, so our checking account. Good. So that shows the $53. That shows the $53 increasing increasing our checking account. That should be decreasing our checking account. right? We paid them $53. Why in the world is that being shown as a receipt? Okay, I tell you what, I'm just going to say this refund, the refunding thing does not work correctly. It's complicated, and yeah, it should not be a receipt, right? Because let's go back to the screen here. We say we view the refunds, right? And when we create a refund, it goes to a customer. So we are refunding money to a customer. Why in the world would it be? So let's click anew again. A customer refund. We are paying a customer money with a check, and yet that showed it as increasing our balance sheet. So that is a total failure. That increased our checking account. That should decrease our checking account. Okay, so the refund, I think the credit memo stuff before you receive the money still might work. And you could actually keep it. If you issued them a credit memo, you could keep that credit memo outstanding until you do have a bill from them. And I think that's actually what we test next. But the cash refund function just is a mess. It does not work. Okay, so let's score our software here. So as far as issuing a credit memo, we can do that. The credit memo includes the sales tax adjustment. Issue a check to refund the credit balance. That's where we fall short. We cannot issue a check. Okay, so let's go back to our case study, see where we're at. Okay. And our final thing is to so let's actually, I want to do a little bit more testing. Let's just do one more testing on make sure that the credit memos work as they're supposed to. So you can only use a credit memo with this program. You can only use a credit memo if you're giving them credit on an outstanding balance. So let's do view credit notes, a new credit note. Let's make a new credit note to Trampoline City. Create it from an invoice. This invoice. Yeah. Sorry, this invoice. Okay, but we're only going to give them a credit for half of the amount. Okay, let's record that. For right now, we can apply it to the existing invoice, and let's just do that. Okay, we're applying $50 to the existing invoice. There's our credit note we can print out for the customer. Okay, if we look at our list of customers now, we can see that Trampoline City has a balance of 50 because we credited them 50. So they owed 100, we credited them 50, they still owe us $53. The balance in Family Bowling is now $53. So they owe us $53. Yeah, that's not right. Again, the refund function, I'm just going to say it does not work correctly. Okay, now the final thing for this chapter is to pay the sales tax liability to the state of New York. So, do we have some sort of report that's going to talk specifically about our sales tax liability? Yep, sales tax report. Okay, let's just do it for this month. Very good. Shows us the amount of sales tax we need to pay as $31.50. Okay. So now it's not going to help us file the return, but it does show us the amount that has to be paid. Okay, so our final scoring for this chapter on NCH Express. Transactions summarized by customer. Are we able to view the transactions summarized by customer without doing a report? If we go to customers, I don't really think so. It gives us summaries, but it doesn't give us transactions by customer. Well, what about customer sales report or customer statements? So let's say we wanted to see Big Time Diner. Okay, so that's the sales receipt. It doesn't show all of the transactions though. It doesn't show the refund. Okay, so let's go into reports. Is there a report that we can generate? Customer sales reports, what we just looked at. What is the items per customer? Yeah, that's no good. Nope. So there really isn't a way to examine, to see a list of all of your transactions by customer. You can see all the sales, but not anything else that may have happened. Okay, can we pay the sales tax liability with a check? I think so. If we go into, probably going to have to go here to our, we want to make payments. Okay, this is payments from customer. How do we write a check for a, I think we might have to do a journal entry. So pay payable. Getting into this stuff again. We had some of this problem in the last chapter. This doesn't seem to stick. It seems to make me enter it every time I go into the payable. Okay. Yeah, so here, this is just an accounts payable, so I'm not sure how we can pay our sales tax. Okay, so I've done a little research. This is not too bad. So from our home menu, we have to go into our transactions tab and make a payment. And so here we can say pay to, we'll just have to set up state of New York. I'm going to pay it from the checking account with a check. Whatever it was, I think it was like $31.50. Okay, and then down here, when we now we need to tell it which account to record it to. We want to record it to our sales tax collected account. Okay, and so it's going to debit that liability. That's perfect, and now we can record and print check. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and let it print on my printer so we can see what it looks like. So the check printed, it looks just fine. That concludes then our chapter 3 of our case study. I have very just kind of mixed feelings about this Express Account software. I really like the layout, but the workflow on it is just a little bit unusual. I really have to search hard for where to make very basic transactions. So I do think once you get things set up properly and once you learn where to go in the program, that it's actually going to be pretty